Trăim sfârșitul ordinii mondiale bazată pe o singură superputere. Asistăm acum la ascensiunea puterilor medii, care își revendică o voce tot mai puternică între est și vest. Discutăm cu Mohamed Amersi, președintele fundației cu același nume, despre ce valori urmează să ghideze noua ordine mondială. Sunt Cristina Cileacu, începe Pașaport Diplomatic. Mohamed Amersi, chairman of the Amersi Foundation, welcome to Diplomatic Passport.
It's a pleasure to be here and lovely to be in sunny Bucharest among friends.
Yes,
Thank you.
Sunny Bucharest with Middle Eastern temperature.
That's a nice way of framing it.
Because we are talking also about Middle East in this interview, I want to start with something that you use as an expression. It is the world where might is right. So we are in Romania, eastern flank of NATO. We look as well at the Middle East, at the Gulf countries that suffered a lot after this recent war in Iran. And I want to ask you, in this scenario where the might is right, the rest of us, being smaller country or less powerful when it comes to military, to economics, how shall we handle the future?
It's a very interesting question, and it's a futuristic question rather than one that is the past. So the doctrine of might is right has largely prevailed because the United States, after the breakdown of the Soviet Union, has largely imposed its version of the global order on the rest of the world. And if the world does not comply with it, then the threat of might is always right is there. I think that the recent war in Iran has changed that perception, because for the first time there is a framing of the opposite, which is right is might. And Iran has displayed that it was in the right after what happened to it. The aggression that it suffered was totally disproportionate, and in the end it has shown that in special situations right is might prevails. So this is going to give hope now to a number of middle powers which are subjugated, which have been subject to the might is right order, to in selective cases to assert right is might. If you look at the speech that Mark Carney made at the World Economic Forum, he for the first time for a Western power, an important member of the G7, NATO, articulated the notion of the rise of middle powers and how the world will have to deal with this. And I would say Romania fits the attributes of a large number of what constitutes a middle power.
I think you are a bit optimistic when it comes to this. Is based on what, in your view, Romania being a middle power? Only size? Because size matters, but not in today's geopolitics.
So there are a number of aspects to me that feel as if a country is becoming a middle power. First, it's geographical location. Secondly, the way that it navigates very difficult issues, in Romania's case between East and West, to put it very broadly. Russia on the eastern side, China on the eastern side, the US and Europe on the western side. Of course, it is a member of the EU, it is a member of NATO, but it does not blindly exercise its privilege by being members of these organizations, but is playing a very delicate, balanced approach. And largely, even if there have been government changes in Romania, this pivot where it's neither west nor east, but it occupies a central space and wants to be respected for the role it does play, can play, and I'm sure will play.
Speaking about pivoting from east to east, if we look at the Gulf countries going to the Middle East, we see that during the Iranian war, these countries were heavily attacked. But then when the accord of peace or the armistice was prolonged, this country were barely involved. Shall we look at them going towards United States still, or shall they turn towards China?
So there are a number of considerations. I actually wrote an article which is published in the Middle East Monitor a few weeks back, where I argued the case that why is it that the Middle Eastern states need to spend so much money? $1 trillion is what they've spent on buying arms. Did these arms purchases actually help them, or did it become a catalyst? Did it become a reason why they were attacked? Assume a Middle East, assume the Gulf states today that are not armed to the hilt. They do not have to choose between the United States and China or Russia or Iran or whoever. They simply say, we have got a superb lifestyle. We are happy to have anyone that wants to come and live here. They would enjoy reaping the rewards, the fruits of our oil resources, the lifestyle that we have created in places like Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Doha, Bahrain, everywhere. Come here, we are not militarily going to be engaged anywhere. That's step one. Step two is to say, fine, we've had a historical enmity versus Iran. We now recognize that this is a country that is 100 million people strong. It has got more population than the sum total of the GCC, and it has proven the fact that it is there to stay. Why not sign a non-aggression pact with them to say, we will not attack you, but you don't also attack us? The only reason why Iran attacked these Gulf states was not because they were Gulf states at all. Iran has got 400,000 Iranian nationals living in the UAE alone. But they did this because they saw that the US had manipulated the GCC to allow them to be utilized as frontline states for the war against Iran. And this is something that whatever happens regarding the future basing of US assets in the GCC, I think that the main lesson the GCC will learn from this is make sure that if they want to base here, they're not going to use our bases and our airspace to attack our neighboring countries.
If we don't choose like we used to do between West and East, if we do it like the Gulf countries, everyone is welcome, let's live together in peace and let's do business. Where are the values then? Because the world is divided between East and West based on values.
You know, I have been a visitor to Russia, I have been a visitor to Iran, I have been a visitor to Israel, a visitor to Turkey. Life has been good to me. I've been able to travel to 180 countries of the world. And I think that when you were born, did you choose your name or your parents or your skin color or your religion? No, you didn't. So why is it that for an artificial identity, you have to start to fight people, kill people, and engage in wars? Why can't we reinvent humanity and say that, look, we are one human being, we live in this world, we are drinking the same water, eating the same food, your blood is colored red, my blood is also colored red. So this division between East and West are artificial divisions that have been designed as to what is the best methodology for controlling a people. And at the end of the day, when you really analyze hard, you realize that on the one side there is an open practice of what they believe. On the other side, the belief is more or less the same, but hypocritically it's been disguised as openness, freedom, fairness, justice, and all of it. But when the push comes to shove, both systems are going to act in the same way. Why not look at the 10 Commandments? I'm not a Christian, but I value the 10 Commandments. Why not look at the one golden rule? Do not do unto others that you do not want others to do unto you. Why not reinvent humanity?
You are right in this point of view, but even when the Bible was written, these rules were not working, because we see for the entire history of the humankind a lot of wars. So this idea of yours is very good, but it looks like it's not going to work, because the minute one superpower, being from the West, being from the East, becomes even stronger, it immediately goes towards punishing the rest. So in this new world of superpowers fading or readjusting and emerging of middle power, do you think that the values will merge as well?
So my view on it is that there was a time when nuclear power, military power, there was a time when having a lot of hard architecture, hardware, aircraft carriers, warplanes, and all of that were going to make other people fear that this is a superpower and it can do what it likes. But I think that as we go along, we're going to see a asymmetry coming up, where now we've seen Iran, which has got no air force, no naval force, but simply by doing two things. One is effective manufacture and use of drones, cheap drones, and secondly, effective and cheap manufacture of missiles. It has been able to stand up against a superpower. So this is telling you that there is a very profound shift, a change in the way the superpower notion and the ability of superpowers to drive the global agenda has changed and will continue to change. What will the superpowers do in this situation? The United States is more likely to say, why should we be the policeman of the world when we are not wanted in so many countries? We are blessed. We have the Atlantic Ocean on one side, the Pacific Ocean on the other side. We have a friendly border in the north, the Canadians, a friendly border in the south, the Mexicans. So we are protected by divine intervention. What do we care about what the world does? And as soon as they decide this is being seen as a retreat in many quarters, it's not a retreat. Let the world come to us, but we are not going to go to the world. China, if you look at them, they don't want to assert military supremacy anywhere. They are saying they have two objectives. One is that they want to have the whole world be a more prosperous place where people, citizens are happy, they are making money, they've got access to many other things. And then, of course, there is AI. Let's not underestimate the power of AI. Today, within seconds, I can get the answer to any question that I have. Before, I had to spend days, weeks, and months. And the more AI goes forward, and the key is not about the proliferation of AI, is who's going to write the rules as to what AI can be used for and what it cannot be used for. It is the manipulation of AI that we have to guard against.
Since you mentioned China, is the doctrine of the current president, everyone should be living prosperous and in peace, but then again, let's look at what China does, not at what China says, because China basically bought a lot of countries and used their resources very cheap against the population of those countries. That's one. Secondly, AI is conquering the world. We have to adapt to AI, use AI in a proper way, but then again, which country develop AI? Because you also need a lot of money to develop AI. So who is going to rule the world, let's say, if the world is now divided into superpowers and powers that emerge, smaller powers, when it comes to AI?
So to answer your first question first, as far as I'm aware, China does not have a strategy of exporting its military might, building military bases across the globe.
Fully agree with you, although they also build bases.
They have built bases for the money that they receive in construction costs. They're not building bases just to house excess weaponry. They are building a military base to ensure that if any of their Asian neighbors was to attack them on behalf of the United States, maybe Japan, maybe South Korea, maybe Australia, then they are fully in a position to be able to defend themselves. This is number one. The Taiwan issue for them is a very emotional issue. And end of the day, Taiwan had one big advantage, its semiconductor industry. And this is why China was interested in taking them. This now has changed. They've now got a bigger chip industry than South Korea does itself. So their need to be able to attack Taiwan is significantly less now. It's an emotional issue, not a need issue anymore. And then to your question regarding AI, so when you look at the valuations of AI companies, in the United States, and you look at when China came up with its AI search tool, it offered this to the world for absolutely free. So I think this proliferation will go with the internet. At the end of the day, China has got more patents in AI registered than the United States does. So at the end of the day, there will be competition as to whose AI model is friendly, open, available, and has got no bells and whistles, okay? At the moment, the US AI companies, to me, are more open. There are questions that I've asked to Chinese AI, and it has responded by saying to me, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to answer this question. So it is more regulated than the US one is. When China gains confidence and is also able to develop open AI architecture, I think that it will be a player.
Back to our initial question of this interview, do you think it's possible for the system we see now developing to get back at some point to the order that was created after the Second World War?
I think that order is out of date. I think that when you look at the UN Security Council, what is the justification to have the membership the way it is today? Legally speaking, the member of the Security Council was USSR. Now, after the breakup of the Soviet Union, the USSR has become the Russian Federation. As a matter of technicality, it is not allowed to stay as a member of the Security Council, okay? Number one. Number two, when you look at the emerging powers, India is one, Brazil is another, they are far more powerful in terms of population, in terms of GDP, in terms of future growth than either the UK or France is. There is small justification to retain the UK, but only if it is able to somehow find a way to speak not only for itself, but also for the Commonwealth of States that was created after the empire fell. On the question of France, it's less justified because there was a time when France was in charge of Francophone Africa, which is the Sahel and the Maghreb region in North Africa and West African states. Largely, this model has now failed, and these countries would like to be independent of the mothership France. So France has less justification to continue staying there. UK only if it can represent the Commonwealth. There is a need for a new order to replace the outdated UN order that came after the Second World War. It has done well for 75, 80 years. But when you look at the United States, they are busy pulling out of every UN agency because they just feel that it is a handcuff on their ability to design the world in the way they see it. It's also a handicap on the world, on the way China wants to develop the world, Russia wants to develop the world, and the middle powers themselves want far more voice. So I'm afraid that UN is not being taken seriously, and it will be taken less and less seriously, and in its place you will have the emergence of BRICS, you will have the emergence of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, of this Shanghai Cooperation Round, Organization SCO. These are the new centers of power. UN will continue to be a talk shop where you meet in New York once a year, have a nice time, clap each other on the back and say we are brothers and sisters, but this model is gone.
If these emerging powers will, let's say, take over, will replace what we have now, I come back again to you with the question of values, because we are humans and we are guided or should be guided by values. Those values remain where in this new order where the new emerging powers
So it just depends on what your definition of values is. It depends on where these are derived from.
Is the classical one are created by the ancient philosophers?
So if we go back to that value-based system, I think that you will find that there is not too much difference between the Chinese values that were designed by Chinese emperors or Japanese emperors, because this is not new. Humanity has been there for a while. The Persians were empire for 2,000 years, the Chinese were there, and they all designed values. Values is a way for ensuring that there is homogeneity, there is predictability, and there is a order, a social order under which societies can live and govern. Otherwise you have anarchy. So I think that on a sublime level there is going to be much more commonality on these orders, and if they are not labeled as Western or Eastern or Chinese or Persian, I think that we have a much better chance of understanding what these should be. And if there is one thing that the UN can do under new leadership, because Mr. Guterres is going to step down next year, I think it should look at how to reinvent itself in order to survive and even try to thrive in a new world order. And this question of values is going to be one of the key fundamental points.
Yes, it is, because, as I said, human must be protected, not, being dictated what to do.
Absolutely.
This is the key question, because these new powers emerging have an issue with dictatorship and autocracy.
And to stop use and abuse, okay?
Yeah.
Because religion is used and abused to achieve goals that were never designed for
So
it
it's
to
politics, not just religion.
Religion, politics, military, they're all being used to achieve goals which are anti-humanity goals. Okay?
They have to be used for the people, not against the people.
Absolutely.
Mohamed Amersi, thank you so much for this discussion.
Thank you for having me.
Atât pentru astăzi, dar rămânem în continuare online pe pagina de Facebook a emisiunii și pe conturile noastre de X și Instagram. Revenim cu subiecte noi din lumea diplomației și a politicii externe, vinerea viitoare de la 11:30 și în reluare sâmbătă după miezul nopții. La revedere!